Hi class, how are you today? I hope everybody is feeling good. Okay, so earlier I sent you the link for the Mentimeter and I was expecting that everybody participated in that simple survey. Okay, so let's check the results. So class, as you can see on your screen, the question in the Mentimeter is, why is it important to use conditionals in expressing arguments? So let's check the results. So three of you answer they help us to express things that may happen in the present and future. One answers conditionals are tools meant for helping people and see both sides of an issue. And two from you answer they can be used to give advice, express regret, and discuss facts. So, class, remember that there is no wrong answer in this question, okay? I just want to know what comes in your mind when you heard the word conditional and argument. Because today, we will talk about conditionals in expressing arguments, okay? So in English grammar, conditional sentence is a type of sentence that expresses one situation as a condition for appearance of another situation. So that's why conditional sentences are normally divided into two parts. As I mentioned earlier, that conditional sentence is divided into two parts. The, the first part is the condition, or also called the dependent clause or the if clause of a sentence. And the other half is the result, which is the consequent or the independent clause or the main clause of a sentence. So there are many terms, but they are all the same. So just remember, when we talk about the condition, it's the antecedent. And when we talk about the result, this is the consequent. So let's take a look at this example. If I don't leave in 5 minutes, I will be late for the meeting. So this conditional sentence can be divided into two parts. The first half is the if clause. If I don't leave in 5 minutes is our condition. Okay? This is the situation that needs to be met in order for the result to happen, which is also called the antecedent. And this is the dependent clause because it cannot stand on its own. And the other half, I will be late for the meeting, is the result of the condition. So the result is also called as the consequent or our main clause, or what we call independent clause in this sentence. Usually, but not always, they are expressed in this format or in this form. If clause and then the condition followed by the result, as I've said, usually but not always. Remember guys, you can also place the result first before the condition, such as this sentence. I will be late for the meeting if I don't leave in 5 minutes. So this is actually the same sentence that we had. It's just that we started with the result or the consequent before stating the condition or the antecedent. So again, in conditional sentences, the clause that follows the if is the antecedent and the other clause is the consequent. We have to keep in mind that the conditional statement can be classified according to many criteria. So remember last week we talked about the zero, first, second, and third conditional, right? Aside from that classifications, another way or another common way of classifying a conditional sentences is classifying it into indicative and subjunctive conditionals. So, indicative conditionals refer to situations that have realistic chance of happening as in. So, let's take a look in this example. If I pass this course, I will graduate on time. So, this statement is likely to happen that if I pass this course, for sure I will graduate on time, right? However, when we say subjunctive conditionals, this describes purely hypothetical situations that cannot happen or are very improbable to happen. For example, if I were you, I would pick up some extra eggs at the store. So this sentence is classified as subjunctive because I could never be you. Okay? So that's the difference between indicative and subjunctive conditionals. Now for our discussion, we'll focus on indicative conditionals. Indicative conditionals are sentences in the form of A, P, and Q, or condition followed by the result that they are everywhere. We honor them in everyday condition, in political or legal debates, or scientific discourse. For instance, if we keep emitting greenhouse gases at our current pace, the oceans will rise and many cities will be flooded. So guys, which do you think here is the antecedent and which do you think is the consequent? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Santos. Mm-hmm. Very good. That's right. The if clause or condition is our antecedent, and the main clause or the one that shows the result is the consequent. The condition that described in the antecedent is believed to be sufficient on the circumstance described in the consequent. To say it is sufficient, meaning it is enough. We don't need anything more to prove the result. Consider, for example, in this sentence. Now, for our discussion, we'll focus if someone is a mother is our antecedent in this sentence. Okay? Because that is our condition. And our result is gender female, which is also called our consequent. Now, if we know that someone is a mother, not just a parent, but a mother, is enough to show that person is female. Therefore, being a mother is a sufficient condition in being a female. It's like we can easily assume if a person is a mother, then we can easily conclude that person is a female. It's not, however, a necessary condition on being a female, since being a mother is not a requirement for being a female. You can be a female without being a mother, right? On the other hand, being female is necessary for being a mother. If someone is not a female, they can't possibly a mother. Okay? So I know this sentence is questionable because of course technically motherhood is not gender specific. But for the sake of distinguishing and showing the relationship of antecedent and consequent, we will use this example, alright? So again, being a female is necessary for being a mother. So if someone is not a female, they can't possibly be a mother. So when we say one thing is necessary for another thing, that means you haven't got the first thing. That means you haven't got the second, right? Water, for example, is necessary for plant life, right? So no water, no plants. Thus, this sentence says that being a mother is a sufficient condition on being female. And being female is a necessary condition on being a mother. So in general, any conditional sentences, the antecedent is a sufficient condition on the consequent, and the consequent is a necessary condition on the antecedent. Like arguments and conditionals may express inferences. So what do we mean by this? These are conclusions that we reach on the base on evidence and reasoning. Nevertheless, a conditional by itself is not an argument. The difference is when you put an argument, you commit yourself to the truth of all its part. Kahit pa sabihin na natin na it's only for the sake of argument. So when you assert a conditional, however, you do not commit yourself to the truth or either its antecedent or consequent. For example, if Michelle is elected, then I'll eat my hat. So someone who asserts like this is convinced that neither the antecedent nor the consequent is true. He or she is just simply betting against the person because ayaw niyang manalo si Michelle. 'Di ba? But he or she would definitely not eat that hat even Michelle is elected. So I'm sure you heard this kind of betting, especially from those politicians, right? So class, I want you to answer the question that I will be posting in the Padlet, and I will be sending the link later on. And it's a time pressure, okay? You only have 2 minutes to answer this question, all right? So I'll be sending now the link. Class, the link is in the chat pane already, and you only have 2 minutes to answer the question. And I am expecting that everybody should participate, okay? I'll start the timer now. So congratulations to all the students who made it in our Padlet activity, okay? So let's take a look with some of the answers of your classmates, okay? So the question is, what winning an argument really means for you? So let's start with Mr. George Canufin. He answers, winning an argument is just a prideful act. Argument is supposed to enlighten both sides and not to overwhelm your opponent. Speaking of your bias is not attacking an opponent, but it's a statement. Thus, an argument doesn't have a winner because you are not trying to win by terrorizing an opposition. This is very good, okay? So, any reactions? Or would like to oppose? Okay, so everybody is agree with Mr. George Canupin, okay? So, let's proceed to our next discussion. So, let's take a look at these examples. You'll study, then you'll pass. If you pass, then you'll graduate. Therefore, if you study, then you'll graduate. As you can see here, we have preconditional sentences, right? The first two are the premises, and the last one is actually the conclusion. The consequent in the first sentence was transferred into the second sentence and was used as antecedent. So kung makikita nyo ang consequent sa first sentence ay ginawa nating antecedent sa second sentence, sa conclusion. We use the antecedent from the first sentence and the consequent from the second sentence. So here is another example. If I sleep late, I feel ill. If I feel ill, then I can't work well. Hence, if I sleep late, I can work well. So it's the same thing. The first two sentences are the premises, and then we have the last statement, which is the concluding statement. And we also did the same thing. The consequent in the first sentence, we use it as an antecedent in the second sentence. And then for our final sentence, we use the antecedent in the first sentence and the consequent in the second sentence. We combine them and therefore we already have our conclusion.
But class, remember, in general, an argument is valid if and only if its corresponding conditional is necessarily true. And that's how we use conditional sentences in arguments. Okay? Clear? Good. So class, any questions and clarifications before we proceed to our quiz? None? Okay. So I'll be sending the link for our short quiz in your chat pane. Remember, this is a time pressure. You only have 10 minutes to answer and submit it, okay?